here we go. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of Neo Humanity, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing CranKy Gaming. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Neo Humanity, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss, one of the best Protoss in the entire world, currently teamless. It's crazy. It is Classic. Boy, here we go. We have seen quite a lot of Classic ZVP over the past couple of months, but again, he is still always so fresh with it, so willing to vary things up when it comes to Glaive Adepts, when it comes to 7-gate Blink Stalker All-Ins, when it comes to Charge of Archon as well. Classic can be a very difficult player to read. And speaking of, so can Dark. And Dark does, or he is forced to take the unnatural natural way. He doesn't take the linear third, he doesn't take the triangular third. He goes for the forward, more aggressive natural base. Oh boy, so he's going to be going for a hatch gas pool opener. So a standard opener, but again, the base location does mean that his creep spread is going to be launched quite quickly out into the middle of the map. This can lead towards a Queen Roach all-in. We bust down these rocks and we hit the would-be third base of the Protoss player. But this is kind of played out. We saw this a lot at IAM Katowice. We saw it a lot from Cyril. We saw it a lot from Rainer as well. But it's kind of fallen out of fashion on Neo Humanity just because it's been so played out, it's so obvious, and Protoss players have been getting better and better at defending against it. So we'll see if Dark will head in that direction or if he does kind of divert his plans. We'll see. As for the time being, Classic hasn't checked. With his probe, kind of like Estrella in Game 2 of Estrella versus Dark, Classic has been more focused with just being a little bit annoying and forcing some inefficient mining here from Dark with those mineral patches, and eventually on the way back home he should scout and confirm what base exactly was taken. Meanwhile, back at home, we do see a gate expand opener, pretty standard. He is going to be going into his Stargate follow-up, so a standard opener here from Classic should be getting into Oracles. But soon he will realize, hold on, the center base was taken instead, and now the pressure is going to be on Classic to try and do some damage. And this is going to be really interesting because the Adepts and Oracles of Classic are going to have an easier time harassing as well, just because the bases of Dark are going to be so spread out. Speaking of, the Adept does rock up and one drone does go down. Meanwhile, across the map, a couple of Lings do slip into the main base and haven't killed any probes yet, but they're looking for some. Up, up. One probe will go down. So we do go blow for blow here. Both players do lose one worker. The Lings slip into the main base and Dark gets a full scout. Does get confirmation that an Oracle is on the way. And I appreciate this because the bases are so spread out. Dark isn't going to be relying on just his queens to defend. We have spores being thrown down in every single base. Oh, and Dark wants to slow the game down. He's already working on these towers. Oh, Lings do get a nice round as well. One Adept does fall. I'm very curious to see the follow-up here as Classic delays his third base. This is what I'm talking about. Again, Classic can be so hard to read sometimes, and he can be so aggressive. So as Classic delays his third, he throws down his follow-up. 2 more gates and a Twilight Council. No Forge. He also delays his third Oracle as well. So I believe one Oracle did go down. Oh no, sorry, he delayed his second Oracle even. This is looking like Glaives. We'll see. The third is eventually thrown down, and we'll see if it is going to be that, yep, Glaive Adept. So this has become quite trendy. This is designed to catch the Zerg player off guard. Because Blink Stalker follow-ups are so commonplace, it is very common as well for Zerg players to delay their roaches and rely on Lings to defend. And that is the goal here. Thankfully for Dark, he already threw down a Roach Warren. We already have roaches on the way. He will have a pretty comparable army here to deal with these Adepts. It just may be difficult to keep up as the Adepts are headed towards the natural base. Roaches are popping out. This will be confirmed. Dark is cutting workers, by the way. It looks like Dark wants to go for his own all-in. There we go. It's Dark. I love this. He's actually breaking down the left-hand side rocks instead, not the rocks on the same side as the base. And this is going to get scattered by Classic. He sees the roaches, and now Classic is in a really awkward position. Dark is going for an all-in, and Adepts are horrible to defend against roaches. We needed Blink Stalkers. And here we go. The army has been spotted. Dark with his own twist here to the roach all-in. Just going to the other side, and as a result, just being scouted that much later. Here we go, the Roach Ravager pushing on forward. Glaives is about to finish, but what is Glaives going to do against roaches? Nothing. Classic went for his own gamble, but, you know, that's how gambling works sometimes. You know, you make a prediction, you make a bet, and you do bet wrong. As Classic is going to try and hold on here, would you have the overcharge in range of the Stalkers? And even though these Stalkers don't have Blink, they're doing a great job against these roaches, but here we go, the Lings coming to reinforce. The Biles will connect, the Lings are getting surrounds. We are warping in a couple of Adepts here to help clean up these Lings. Not a bad trade so far, but Classic is being forced all the way back behind his third base. And over time, Dark is just out trading this army. Every single Stalker is going to be going down. A Void Ray comes out to defend, but the third base has been compromised. And we do see Classic trying to hold on to his natural, and it looks like he will. Dark is droning behind this, but he will kill the third. Oh, the Miles! No! Oh. Classic leaves his Void Ray idle. And Dark, he can keep pushing. Wow, he can keep on going. As again, Adepts are really not what you want against Roach Ravager. The wall goes down, the Lings flood in. We do have shield batteries. We're about to have an overcharge as well, but GG gets called, and Dark will take game number 1. GG. Classic trying to be cheeky, going for a Glaive Adept follow-up, assuming that the game would go on a little bit longer, especially because if you saw at the start of the game, Dark, he was chipping away at those towers. It looked like he wanted to turtle up on his side of the map, and he didn't immediately rush into that gas geyser. On top of that, Dark was working, or was kind of chipping away at those rocks, but on the left-hand side of the map instead, and yeah, Classic didn't see that until he was already moving out with his Adepts. Oh. GG. An interesting take there on the Roach Queen all-in from Dark. An interesting variation, I should say. Oh. GG. Dark will take game number 1. But that game was very unique to Neo Humanity. Like, the Roach Queen all-ins are most common on Neo Humanity because of the rush distance. And those Glaive Adepts were being he went for the Glaive Adepts because of the awkward base placement as well from Dark. Classic hoping to, like, cripple the economy of Dark if it was a more standard opener. So, GG. Dark does take that first game, but I don't think that game really tells us much about how the series will go on. As we are getting ready for game number 2. Oh boy. There we go. You can hear the beats. We're going to be getting into game number 2, which will be taking place on Gressvan. Bit of a larger map. Quite a larger map compared to Neo Humanity. And this is the map where I wouldn't be surprised if Dark tries to go for his proxy hatch. We have seen it quite a lot here, but maybe it's too obvious. Maybe it's too obvious on this map. We'll see. We'll see how Dark's feeling. As here he is spawning in the top left-hand corner of Gressvan. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing CranKy Z Gaming, currently up 1-0 in the Best of 5 series. It is Dark. Oh, keeping his drones at home. Let's go. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gressvan. We have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player, currently teamless, currently down in this series. It is Classic. Say the chat catching up. Didn't micro the Void. He didn't micro the Void Ray. I don't think that would have saved him. But it would have helped. It definitely would have helped our Protoss player here, as you see Dark just sending out his first drone, going to be getting his hatchery on location. Beautiful. You love to see it. And yeah, thankfully we're going to be getting a much more standard game here. I was a little bit concerned that Dark was going to be cheesing things up once again, just like he did against Estrella. But no. Standard openers from our Zerg player. Hatch gas pool. You'd love to see it. And Classic does confirm all of that. And likewise, we've also been seeing quite a lot of gateway aggression from Classic on this map as well. We've been seeing him multiple times go for the 7-gate plink all in, with no forge, of course, with no +1. Quite often here on Gressvan. Would he be willing to do it again here? We'll see. That's the other thing to say, is that both Classic and Dark play against each other so often. And I do think that's part of why their series are so unique, even compared to each other, just because I feel like Classic and Dark, they just have to try to keep each other on their toes. It's kind of like Dark versus Hero, where like no two series are the same between them. Every time they face, every couple of days, like it's something different, which is really nice to see. It means that even though we see them face off so often, like it never gets dull, it never gets boring. As here we go, Classic once again going to be going for the Stargate opener. But just like we saw last game, just because it's a Stargate doesn't mean that it's going to be leading into a standard, Forge and Templar Archives follow-up. Or Twilight Council follow-up. Doesn't mean that it's going to be Blink. As he did attempt to go Glaives last game. We'll see what that will be. As the first Adepts are going to be moving out here just to try to dance here with the workers. Last game, Classic was able to get a drone kill, but now that the bases are actually well set up for Dark, like he wasn't forced to take the unnatural natural or anything like that, he should be fine against this. He's got his queens, he's got his lings in position. The Adepts shouldn't be finding too much damage. Classic is going for that first Oracle. And at this time, there's no pressure on Dark to throw down those spores either. Like, just because the base, layout was so awkward. Oh, as we get us around, first Adept goes down. But last game, just because the base layout was so awkward, it meant that Dark had to rush out those spores. They are coming out now, but much later, Dark, he could afford to delay them a little bit longer as well. Got plenty of queens getting in position. Meanwhile, the Ling's going to be threatening the third base as well, forcing the first Oracle to stay at home. Trying to force the activation of that Pulsar Beam as well. And Dark, ooh, is going for a very fast lair here. That is a 4-minute lair from Dark. He's got 2 gases, but he's taking a 3rd gas as well, so I'm curious to see what this is going to be for. I don't think it's going to be for a Nidus. We'll see. We'll see. As the Lings are poking and prodding, threatening the bases here of Classic. Classic's Oracles are finally moving out across the map, and they've got a lot of scouting to do. Got to figure out what is going on. As it looks like they're going to be finding one straight Queen here at the 3rd base. Bound off creep out of position. Not too bad. Gonna be trying to get some drones as well, and we'll get another. Does dip in between the bases, and even though the Roach one was thrown down behind the natural, I believe it has been spotted by the Oracles. They know. Bearing in mind as well, once this lair does finish, there is no Evo chamber with this. No upgrades. So another gas being taken. The follow-up is going to be the standard Blink and +1, so everything is looking really meta here from Classic. And there it is going to be the Nidus. So the reason why I didn't think it would be initially was because he took 3 gases, so it wasn't going to be a Ling Queen Nidus. But after we saw the Roach Warren, it's like, okay, so it's going to be a Roach Queen Nidus instead. A different variation of the all-in. Meanwhile, Classic, he didn't scout the main. He doesn't know about the lair timing, so he doesn't know how much danger he's in right now. He throws down the Revelation, and he does spot the Nidus. Now he knows. Shield batteries are being thrown down immediately. Classic does have time to react. Oh my god. 2 cannons and a shield battery here at the third base, but the Nidus is going up here in between the main and the third. More shield batteries at the natural as well. Honestly, pretty smart. Dark has the option to go for one base or the other. Nidus will finish. There's no Overlord to get vision in the main. Dark is taking this a little bit slow. He's actually going to be morphing in Ravagers first. This will be delaying the push overall, but it will make it a little bit stronger. As here we go, he's pulling the trigger. What does he want to go for? Stack defense is done. The first Immortal is out. Upon seeing it, Dark does just back away. We do have an overcharge, but the force field goes, sorry, the shield battery goes down immediately. But despite that, his positioning too good. The Biles will connect. Nice body blocking from those Lings. The Immortal has arrived. But the Lings, they continue to flood across the map. And without that shield battery, I do think the third base is looking quite vulnerable. We'll see. As Classic is trying to force us back to the Niduses. But these Stalkers, they're going down one after the other. Likewise, the Immortal went down as well, but we do blink on forward. A lot of these Ravagers are going down, only one left. But the blink is punished. But overall, it looks like Classic has held. Even though Classic did lose a lot of Stalkers, and he lost an Immortal as well, looking at the units lost tab, Classic did lose more gas, but Classic didn't lose any workers. That's the important part. His economy is safe and sound. Dark, meanwhile, has to back off, and Dark is taking a fourth base, but he hasn't been droning. He's rebuilding his army, working on a Evo chamber though, so he is going to be working on those upgrades, and he should be droning shortly. We'll see. Again, a good start here for Classic. A big reason as to why he was able to defend is he scouted it with his oracles. He saw the Nidus before it finished. That gave him the precious seconds he needed to get his stack defense ready to start the Immortal production as well. And now he's getting into double Robo, double Colossus production. As the game goes on, it's looking a little bit better and better here for Classic, but bear in mind that Dark has been staying on a low drone count. He's been focusing on rebuilding his Roach Ravager Ling army. Ideally, Dark wants Classic to push into him. Dark wants to fight on creep. Here we go. Classic does reveal himself. Does move out. Does supply block Dark a little bit as well. That will be slowing Dark down. Meanwhile, Classic's hitting his fourth base up and running. Dark still hasn't droned. He's still staying on 51 workers. That's all he needs. That's all he wants. Wants to go for a super maxed army. Oh, and here we go. Dark is setting up a surround. Lings are coming in from behind. We do force a blink. And with that, Dark will get a surround on some of these soldiers. They do force a recall. A great pickup here from Dark. Meanwhile, is Classic ready for this back at home? He's going for another massive warp, and he does have 2 Colossi. Those Colossi are going to be huge. The Colossus. As the Lings are going to have a hard time engaging at the same time the Roaches do hit the third base. But the Stalkers are here to meet him. The Lings try to go in from behind. They try to get us around to those Colossus. But especially with the Prison, the Colossus shouldn't go down. But the Stalkers are in a really awkward position. The Stalker count is being reset. We only have a handful of Stalkers remaining, but the Micro, the Prism Micro, is just too good. And now we're up to 4 Colossi. And even though we don't really have too much to support them, it's enough to defend. Oh, and now Dark is hurting. He has intentionally been staying on a low drone count. Now finally is forced to make workers. And once again, he didn't really kill too many workers of Classic. He got 6 probe kills. And Classic is miles ahead. Now that he has these 4 Colossus, we can start Disruptor production. And he's already on that. We already have 2 Disruptors with the army. We're going to have another 2 behind this. Dark, he drones up a little bit, just enough to saturate his 4th base. And now he's back to making roaches. Dark is getting ready for round 3. First 2 rounds didn't go his way, but you know what? He can maybe go for one Hail Mary play here. He knows that from this position, like macroing and taking a 5th base and taking up the Hive, it's not really an option. He's still all in. Here we go. Classic is moving out. Dark, though, is super maxed. He has 200 supply, only 60 workers. A lot of roaches are available here. He's setting up another surround. Again, he wants Classic to push into him. Well, meanwhile, Classic, does he spot the army? It looks like he will come across the roaches. Novas are going to be going off. They will find their connections. Biles will connect as well, but we lose so many roaches. Oof. Now Dark is trying to pull the army out of position. We see his 2nd force trying to come in from behind. The roaches have been spotted. We have disruptors all over the place. Up. The Novas are going to be going off. They're going to be forcing the army back. Another massive Nova connects. And yeah, Classic is pulling this apart. GG gets called. Classic ties up the series 1-1. GG. Ooh. Dark trying to be cheeky here with a Nidus all in. But again, Classic was able to scout it in time, react in time, defend incredibly well. And Dark was just, you know, perpetually behind, perpetually all in. Had to make those pushes work, and alas, in the end, Classic's defenses were just too damn good, too solid. GG. GG. And this is what we wanted. We wanted a back and forth series. We wanted this to go the distance. Let's go. See, Orsis in the chat. Finals? Yes, yes. This is the grand finals. Best of 5. Best of 5. See, Tato in the chat. No Vipers, Robo feels OP. I mean, again, Dark, he couldn't really afford to go into Hive, just because of how the game had played out, unfortunately. If the game was a little more standard, then I'm sure he would have gone for that. But Dark is anything but standard, you know? He's all about that aggression. That's why we love him. That's why we love him. That's what makes him so entertaining to watch. Also, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Starduck in the chat. Starduck. Shaking my head. Good morning, good morning. My hijito. Hope you're doing well. Yes, here we go. We are tied up 1-1, and spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have our South Korean Zerg player looking to take a lead in this series, representing Dragon KZ Gaming. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have as opponent, we have the South Korean Protoss. Currently teamless, but tying up the series 1-1 in that last game. It is Classic. Hello, Monsieur Drone. And this is what Dark does. On maps where there is no ramp going into the natural, I assume that he would do it on Gressvan. I assumed that it would be a Gressvan build, but no, the proxy hatch is being whipped out on Ancient Cistern instead. Here we go. This is how Dark took down Australia earlier in the tournament. Dark has been very fond of this build, again, on maps like Ancient Cistern, Gressvan, and I believe the other one is Royal Blood, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Royal Blood, which also doesn't have a ramp into the natural, so that does kind of give some more leeway here to the proxy. But all Classic, he does scout, he does confirm. He responds immediately with a Forge. Unlike Estrella, if you remember, Estrella had no idea what was coming his way until it was already knocking down his front door. Classic scouts. And why does he scout? Because Classic has died to this before. Dark has done this to Classic before, and Classic is mentally prepared for this. He throws down the Forge first before the Cybercore delays his Nexus, so he will have faster access to those cannons. And the first Zealot is chronoed out, already going to be knocking down this hatchery. Oh boy. And Dark, as he tries to expand back at home, is going to get pylon blocked as well. Classic is just responding so well to this. Oh my god. Second Zealot is on the way. Cannons are already being thrown down. The Spine Crawlers are not going to be able to get up here. Classic is shutting this down. And Dark has to transition. There is no way that he can commit to this. He's forced to take another hatchery back at home instead. Classic will not be cheesed out. Oh my god, Classic even cancels one of the cannons. That's how confident he feels right now in his defense. He knows that he doesn't need that second cannon, as he will kill this hatchery. Will the Queen finish it? Looks like it barely will. And can it get a tumor down? Looks like it will be able to throw down that tumor as well. Broodlings and Lynx dive on top of that cannon as Dark tries to shut it down. Well, looks like we do lose a caster in the midst of all of this. Again, Dark trying to make the best out of a bad situation. Dark even making 8 more Lynx behind this. Oh my god. Bold move. Yeah, Dark trying to wreak some havoc here, trying to cause some chaos. Is going to be able to take down one of those Zealots. The shield battery is just a little bit too late. Well, there is no shield battery. Oh, the Lynx are flooding on in. They're going to be able to get a surround on this Adept, but the Adept does shade behind the wall. Classic will hold. But because Classic did cancel that cannon as well, Dark is able to take control of this area and spread some creep. And his goal here is to spread creep towards the third base locations just to delay the third of Classic even more. To make this worth it in some way. There we go. The tumors are being spread in both directions. Queen chipping away at that pylon as well. As behind this, Dark is droning quite happily. Throwing down his third base. Trying to transition. Doing his best to transition, I should say. Meanwhile, Classic actually is going for a really fast robo. It looks like he's going to be going for his own 2-base all-in here. It looks like he doesn't really intend to take a third. This is a very fast robo. With this, we can start Immortal production. There's +1 on the way. We can set up for a Soul Trade. Immortals and Sentries. Meanwhile, oh my god. Dark, he fans his Lings all around the map, making sure there's no weird ninja base or he can catch any kind of move out from his opponent. Phoenix confirms saturation at the natural at least. And this could be a setup for even a slow lot all in. Show us the prism. Okay, it's going to be an observer first to clean up all these tumors. Makes sense, makes sense. Additional gases are being taken. Oh, and this is not for Immortal production. The Robo first goes straight into a Robotics Bay. Now, this can go into a Disruptor drop, or Classic can have fun and he can go for a Colossus drop, which is, again, very NA. We see it very rarely. Every now and then we do spot it, but this should be for Disruptors. We'll see, we'll see. Oh, as Dark is cutting workers, he's going for a surround as well. He's trying to get on top of these sentries. Good force fields, though. Behind this, Dark, he is cutting workers at 37. He's making nothing but Lings and Roaches. He wants to try to catch Classic with his pants down. He wants to try to catch Classic as he tries to expand and take a third. The creep is being cleaned up, but Dark, he doesn't care. Ravagers are on the way. Classic is in the dark. He doesn't know. He doesn't see. Ugh. As we get another surround, this time with no force fields. The Stalker will fall. And Classic is none the wiser. He will have one disruptor to defend, but he has no prism to keep these units alive. They're going to get surrounded. Oh, as we're forced to recall. Meanwhile, Dark just banking up his army back at home, getting ready for his big push. Classic does have a standing army. He does have +1, but he doesn't have Blink. And again, Classic, he wants to expand. Third base is not really what you need right now. So we go, the third is thrown down, and Dark is going to pull the trigger. This army is so isolated. Nova's going to be going off, and it will connect with only a single Ravager. Lings flood on in. There are no cannons or shield batteries to defend. Again, the Classic's army was completely out of position. Files will connect on the shield batteries, on the cannons. Another Nova's going to be going off, once again only connecting with a single Ravager. And Dark may just have too much. Classic, he wants to go for a flanking disruptor, and it looks like the Nova will go off, but again, only one Ravager. The Lings are flooding on in. The wall is not a wall. And Dark, even though the proxy hatch didn't quite work out the way he wanted it to, he breaks through anyway. GG gets called, and Dark takes game number 3. Takes a lead in this series. GG. Classic did go for a hallucinated scout once, but if you remember, something really smart happened. Because Dark was threatening and got a surround on those sentries, Dark, he forced those sentries to throw down force fields, which means they couldn't hallucinate scout. They didn't have the energy to go for a follow-up scout to figure out if Dark was droning or not. On top of that, he didn't just force the force fields, he killed the sentries as well. So Classic just had no way to really move out across the map and figure out what was happening. Classic, he was too busy using his observer to clear up creep instead of scouting what Dark was up to. Oh, GG. GG, well played. With that, Dark is a 1 game away from becoming this week's KSL champion. Classic has to win this game and the next to be the champion himself. Oh boy. Ay, ay, ay. I see Reaper in the chat. Sexy play. Shaking my head, shaking my head. Of course you would approve, Reaper. He's like, oh, Dark, he watches my stream, Papi. Very Reaper-esque plays. You're not wrong, you're not wrong. Shout out to Reaper in the chat, who is the cheesiest Zerg player in all of North America. I'm sure he wears that title proudly. Shout out, shout out. But yeah, if you want some inspiration, Dark has been very aggressive this entire tournament. I highly recommend checking out the VODs. We've been seeing so many all-ins, Queen Nidus all-ins, Roach Queen, Ling all-ins, just cutting workers at any moment to rush across the map. His series against Percival, again, a lot of Roach timings. And even proxy hatches against both Estrella and Classic. And technically, Dark hasn't lost with Proxy Hatch today. He did beat both Estrella and Classic with it. I guess, here in Game 2, it wasn't because of... in a way, it wasn't because of the Proxy Hatch that Dark won, but at the same time, it was also because of the Proxy Hatchery that kind of led to the ground army of Classic exposing itself and getting surrounded the way that it did because of all that creep. Boy, here we go. As we are getting into game number 4. Vámonos, papi, vámonos. With this again, Dark just needs one more. Classic needs this one and then the next to take this series. Game 4 is going to be taking place on Royal Blood. And this is the other map that Dark does go for proxy hatches on. I don't think he would do it 2 games in a row though. Like, that would be wild if he does it here on Royal Blood. Again, the reasoning for doing that build and that opener on Royal Blood and Gresvan and Ancient Cistern is because there is no ramp leading up into the natural base, so that is kind of the ideal situation or the ideal scenario to try and go for the hatchery, to go for the spine rush as well. The production is that much more exposed, the tech as well. So yeah, we'll see if Dark does it 2 games in a row. He shouldn't, but he may. Aye. Here we go, spawning in the top right hand corner of Royal Blood. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing CranKy Gaming. 1 game away from becoming this week's KSL champion. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner of Royal Blood, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player representing himself. Ooh, currently down in the series, looking to fight back in Game 4. It is Classic. And this time, Dark doesn't send his drone across the map. Let's go. This time, Dark is looking to take his base back at home instead, forced to take the unnatural natural, but no, he's looking to actually bypass his probe. Oh, he dips in. And he'll get it on location. This is very Dark-esque. I don't see any other top tier Zerg player do it, but more often than not, Dark will set up 2 workers, and it is a little bit inefficient, but it is worth it if Dark is able to get his regular natural up and running. There we go. We do have our hatch gas pool here from Dark. I think it was actually because of the delay of gas first, or gas hatch pool even. And everything is back at home. No proxies. Feels good, man. Feels good. As Classic is going to be able to get into his own opener quite happily. And we can get into a standard game. I say a standard game, again, we're going to have to keep an eye on Dark to see when he cuts workers, any early timing with his lair as well, as that could indicate a Nidus all-in that we've already seen already. And any kind of early Roach Warrens as well. And if Dark can avoid it, he will not want to get into a standard game. And especially because Dark has a little bit of leeway right now. Like, he can afford a loss, which means it's more often than not that he will go for some kind of aggressive style. We'll see. As Classic is going for a Stargate opener. Has to be expected. Nothing too crazy. Classic just trying to get into his own game. And again, if Classic can just scout, like perpetually scout and just stay on top of what Dark is up to, he should be fine. Oh, as he does get the pylon block off. Very clutch there towards the end. That will delay the third base of Dark. Will force the linear third to be taken instead. The Adept up! Oh, gets here 1 second too late. Was almost able to delay that third once again. That was close. That was insanely close. As we do have our Oracle opener here from Classic, we should be seeing our third base taken momentarily. As Classic just continues to scout, make sure no additional gases have been taken. There's no additional gas mining either. Everything is on the up and up for now. As Dark is just going to be making some extra lings, this will be forcing the first Oracle to stay at home, as these lings should be threatening the third base. The lings are about to rock up, but we do have 2 Adepts to defend, and these 2 Adepts should be enough to force Dark back. Meanwhile, the Oracle does dive on in. It's going to be able to get a couple of these drones. The Spore done only a couple of seconds too late. 4 drones going down, and the Oracle should survive. As the flanking Queen gets a couple of extra hits in. Meanwhile, Dark does throw down his Roach Warren hidden in his main base. This was around a 4-minute Roach Warren. I want to say a 3-minute 55, just sub 4 minutes, which is still relatively standard. Well, I say that it's standard against a Twilight Council opener, not so much against a Stargate opener, which was already confirmed by Dark. So I'm curious to see how he's going to make use of that. Yeah, there we go. We have Roaches on the way. There's no reason to make Roaches against an Oracle opener like this. Oh boy, as Classic's follow-up is going to be Glaives once again. I'm getting flashbacks to earlier in this series, to game number 1. And once again, Classic is rolling the dice and he's rolling wrong. Like, Dark is going to be going for a Ling Roach all-in, and there are going to be Adepts to defend, not Stalkers. Oh boy. Let's see how this works out. I mean, again, these Adepts are going to do fairly well against the Lings at least. But the Roaches are going to be the real issue. As Roaches are flooding across the map, the Adept count is looking quite respectable, to be fair. Oh, and Dark is maybe fighting a little bit prematurely. We need to consolidate these Roaches. There we go. We do commit to the Shade. Lings will fall. So will some of the Adepts. Yeah, as Dark is being forced back. Now, I do think defensively, Dark will have the advantage, but Dark cut workers to make this happen. There we go. The Adepts are diving on forward here. I don't think we want to commit to the Shade, though. The Lings are waiting, and we force a recall. Oh, a massive misstep from Classic. He was doing a great job at pushing the army away, but he could never engage. Meanwhile, back at home, Dark is droning, is getting his lair up and running. He's transitioning. He's behind economically, but he's slowly catching up. Meanwhile, unfortunately, Classic can't really do much with these Adepts. Again, there's already a Roach army back at home. There are Lings as well. And the problem is that if Classic goes across the map with these Adepts now, and if he loses them, then he's going to lose the third. Like, this is what's keeping him alive right now. Blink only just now starts. So again, ideally we want to be aggressive, we want to be harassing with these Adepts, because of the current game state, it's a risky move to do this. As again, Classic leaves nothing back at home to defend. He's moving out with his Adept army. So he has to be careful not to push too deep into creep. Oh, does get a Ravager, not too bad. At the same time, 2 Adepts do shade into the third base. Damage is being done. Again, Classic has to just be very careful with his Adept control, has to be making sure that the Shade is ready to get off of creep at any moment. Once again, he peels off 2 Adepts to head towards the third. Main army going to be threatening the creep. And behind this, we're getting into our second Robo and a Robotics Bay. God. As that Oracle is very ambitious. Adepts once again pushing forward here. I'm sure Classic wants to try to force the Lings to react. Looks like one more Ravager will go down. There we go. The Lings do come in, and that's going to be the cue for Classic to come in with his other 2 Adepts. As the Lings are pulled out of position, the Adepts do shade in, and they're going to be able to get 1 more drone, 2, 3 even. And a lot of lost mining time. Meanwhile, behind this, Dark is going into Roach Hydra, an interesting composition. Something you don't see too often. It does have its place in the game because it's typically a launch pad into something else. And we can see that here. In ZVP, Hydras, unless we're up against Skytoss, are usually only for Lurker play. There it is. Lurker Den is on the way. So I do appreciate this. Dark is basically trying to rush into Lurker tech so he can defend and hold on against a ground push. And the Lurker Den should finish up in time for the first 4 Colossi. We already have 2 Colossi. We're going to be waiting for that critical mass of 4 Colossus. Again, by the time they pop out, we should have lurkers. We'll see. It's going to be close. Behind this, Classic is going for his 4th base. He's probing on up. Extended Thermal Lance is still on the horizon. Colossi still on the way. And now that the Infestation Mid is done, we can get into Hive Tech. Hydra, Lurker, Viper. We saw Dark use this to great effect earlier today against Estrella on Babylon. On a larger map like Royal Blood, Dark is looking to have maybe a little bit more success. And there we go. The first 6 Lurkers are on the way. So even though this 4 Colossi timing is really deadly, because we have Lurkers, Dark should be able to hold. Like, he should be able to survive any kind of ground toss push, especially without Immortals. Meanwhile, we have a couple of Adepts in the main base trying to distract Dark. The main army is pushing in towards the 3rd base. Do we have Lurkers in position? They're not burrowed. Up! Well, we have a revelation. We blink on forward. 1 Lurker goes down. The other 2 and 3 Lurkers do fall as well. Very quick reactions out of Classic. And we need to reposition the Lunkers, Papi. And there we go. They do come in. Scary moment for Dark. Meanwhile, the Prism was not cleaned up. It looks like the Prism will go down, but not before the Adept shade in. And these are Glaive Adepts. Bear that in mind. Another revelation. We blink on forward. A risky blink. Does get 1 Lurker. But the Adepts are wreaking havoc. The Adepts are pulling Dark apart. Bearing in mind, these are Lair Tech Lurkers. They don't have range. Another Lurker goes down. Unfortunately, Dark, he can't really support his Lurker army because of all these Adepts. Finally, he cleans them up. And finally, he can push out. But Classic is already making his way back home. Dark, he's missed his window. And Dark is hurting right now because he lost so many Lurkers. Did he lose 4 Lurkers? 5. He lost 5 Lurkers. They're pretty expensive. They take quite a bit to rebuild, and Dark is actually quite vulnerable right now. Things are looking quite scary here. Observer moves forward. It does spot all the Lurkers. We're going for the blink once again. There we go. Novas are going to be going off as well on the last remaining Lurker. Classic wedging himself in. He doesn't want to let Dark get to the critical mass, or get to the critical count of Lurkers and Vipers. He is forced back. Speaking of 6 more Lurkers in production, if these finish, then Dark should be okay. Mass Lurker, Papi. But Classic's okay with this because as he's been pushing, he gets his 4th base up and running, and we have Sky Toss on the horizon. We have 2 Stargates and a Fleet Beacon. Lurkers will no longer be an issue. Nerves are going to be going up. Taking down another Lurker. Dark trying to get in position here on the right-hand side as well, spreading himself quite thin. Classic expanding aggressively towards Dark. And this is going to be such a crucial base because Classic won't just mine from this base, he can also set up shield batteries and cannons basically right next to the bases of Dark. Meanwhile, Link counterattack. Ooh, Classic being a little bit too greedy, double expanding. Not quite, or doesn't quite have the forces to defend the right-hand side. It's also the downside of this army of Classic is it's not very mobile. Tends to take quite some time moving around the map. Meanwhile, we have our Nidus on the way, Vipers as well. But we've been focusing so much on Lurker production, we don't really have that many Hydras. We don't have that much anti-air. Lurkers trying to reposition. The ground army of Dark just going for a massive counterattack. Nidus on the way. Dark wants to try to punish the bases of Classic because he knows he can't fight the main army. Here we go. Lings head towards the 3rd base. Lurkers heading towards the natural. The Novas! Ooh, they miss. They don't get a single Lurker. And Classic has to make a choice. Does he try to break in or does he turn around? And he recalls. He recalls back home. Biles will connect. But he will hold on to his 3rd base. Hydras are breaking into the natural. Robos are depowered. Nidus does get up and running. Dark hasn't really dealt any critical damage though. He's throwing away a lot of army and he's not really getting much value. He depowers the robos. He gets 12 probes. He's getting more workers here. Oh my god. Oh my god. The boys were pulled to try to take down the Nidus, and suddenly the probe kills a skyrocket. 37 probes go down. Half the workers of Classic in the blink of an eye. Classic a little bit of a misstep there. And now suddenly Classic's economy is crippled. His goal base isn't mining either. The Roach Ravager rocks up once again. There's no detection to deal with the lurker either. There's no detection to deal with the lurker. Dark, somehow he finds a way. Somehow, but Classic's main army is still terrifying. Like, he still has a death ball. He still has a death ball that has to be respected. But he just recalled. He won't be able to turn back around. Tempest chipping away at these spores. Meanwhile, we have lurkers all over the place. Pulling Classic apart. Forcing him all in, basically. And as he's all in, here we go. The Vipers come into play. They get some yoinks going off. The Queens with enough DPS to take down one of those Tempests and a Colossus. These Tempests are still threatening. There we go. We get another yoink. Meanwhile, still barely any mining going on here for Classic. He loses his natural. He's trying desperately to mine from his gold base. Classic was honestly looking to be in a commanding position, and in a matter of seconds, he loses everything. Where he lost 35 workers. And now Dark is running away with this, remaxing on Hydra Lurker Viper. And he doesn't have to fight the main army. He can just keep going for these counterattacks. There's nothing to defend back at home. Classic doesn't have the supply to split up. Just doesn't have the numbers. Forced to recall once again. We should get the hell out of here. I just will turn around, stutter stepping their hearts out. At the same time, Dark moves forward here, and Classic, it looks like he didn't leave enough to defend. He has High Templar, but he doesn't have Storm. Here we go. Here come the Abducts. 2 more Tempests go down. I just going for another counterattack. The goal base is no more. Meanwhile, the Hydra hit squad is under threat. It does pick off the Prism. If Classic isn't careful, he could even lose another Tempest, or even High Templar. Hydras are hunted down. Across the map, though, there's nothing here to defend. This is the most crucial mining base for Classic, and it's going to be going down. There is just too much Zerg. Classic, if he wasn't all in before, he is all in now. And we have a Nidus, which means we can just recall back home, basically, with said Nidus. We can turn around if we want to. Now, Classic does have a lot of Storm. Storm is done. He has a lot of High Templar. 6 High Templar, almost 2 Storms each. He's trying to force himself up the ramp. The Nidus does finish. The Hydra army turns back around. Oh, massive Storm through the mineral lines. But he still can't break through the lurkers. GG gets called, and Dark does it. Things are looking pretty dire for him. Dark was in a really rough position, but he brings it all back. GG gets called, and Dark will be this week's Korean StarCraft League champion. GG. Oh my god. Things were not looking good for Dark. He was down in economy, he was down in bases, he was struggling to keep his lurkers alive. If you remember, when he rushed into lurkers, he lost 5 of them almost immediately. Dark was up against the wall, and then suddenly he just said, screw it. I'm just going to send everything across the map. I'm going to go for all these Niduses. I'm going to go for Hydra Roach Rumbys as well. I'm going to keep my lurkers at home, most of them to defend. And initially, Classic was defending quite well. but all it took was like one really bad trade for Classic to lose a mineral line. If you remember, he pulled workers to try to surround the Nidus, and he pulled workers into lurkers and hydras. It was a little bit misguided. Loses a mineral line, loses bases. Things suddenly got very chaotic. Oh, GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Dark as he overcomes Classic, even though Classic has been getting the better of Dark recently. Dark does fight back in a very aggressive fashion. We saw proxy hatches, Nidus all-ins, roach timings, queen walks. We had it all. We had it all, but we didn't have a standard game. Dark would not allow it. He wouldn't allow it. Just hyper aggression from both players. GG, well played. And yeah, that's honestly why it's a lot of fun to watch these two, you know, like things can get really crazy, really aggressive. Oh, you love to see it. Love to see it. And I hope everyone in the chat enjoyed themselves. Oh, and also it is time to pay out the predictions. Oh, here we go. Most people did bet on Dark, to be fair. But GG, well played. Congratulations to Dark, as he's going to be this week's KSL champion. Oh, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first time that Dark has won a KSL. I remember we were looking at the stats the other day. Yeah, congratulations. There have been 11 iterations of this tournament, and Dark has been here every single week, and this is the first time that Dark has walked away with that trophy. He's always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. Dark has made it to second place so many times, I think more than any other player. But typically in these finals, he meets his end to Hero or Solar or Bjorn or Maru. There's always someone else that topples Dark. But this week, no. This week, Dark overcomes. Congratulations for winning his first KSL. GG. GG, well played. Oh. Even though Dark is the best Zerg player in Korea, it just goes to show how competitive the KSL is and how intense these games can be as well. So GG, well played. Meanwhile, Classic still also only second places in the KSL. He's still looking for his win. He's still looking for his championship run. I wish him the best. I'm sure both players will return next week. And if you enjoyed this tournament, if you enjoyed the broadcast, this is a weekly tournament. The Korean StarCraft League is back every single week on Saturdays at around this time. It used to be Fridays, but they have moved it over to Saturdays just to accommodate the players and make sure that more people are available for this. We were missing some players. We were missing Bjorn, we were missing Maru, and we were missing Hero as well. Unfortunately, Hero did forfeit earlier. I hope there's nothing too serious going on, and I hope everything is okay. But I'm sure we'll have them all return next week. I want Dark to strap me into the harness. Ay, 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 baby. Like, ay, ay, ay. Shaking my head. I love watching Dark. Thanks for the cast. Always on. Oh, thank you so much, Reaper. Thank you. Do appreciate it. Catching up. Oh, but with that is the end of the Korean StarCraft League for now. That is the end of our first broadcast of the day, the first of many. I said it earlier, but today, in a couple of hours, let me just double check here. How many hours? How much time do I have to myself? In 2 hours, we're going to be back. We're going to be live with Grand Platypus Open. That is our bi-weekly regional tournament for ESL Asia, for the Asia region. So if you're interested in Southeast Asian players, in Oceanic players, players from China, players from Taiwan and Hong Kong, like Gogo Joey, like Nice, like Oriana, like Mia Micah, Azure, and many others, then check us out there. We're going to be live in 2 hours. And then a couple of hours after that, we're going to be live once again with World Team League. So we have 3 broadcasts today, back to back to back. I am going to go get some breakfast. I am starving. I'm starving. So I'm going to go get some food. I'm going to go rest as well. I'm going to go rest my voice, and I'll be back in 2 hours with some more StarCraft. But before I let this get away from me, !KSL in the chat. If you want to support this weekly tournament, if you want to support the Korean scene, then you can, of course, become a patron on Patreon. This event is funded by the community for the community. We have gotten so much support here for the KSL. I think we get like $4,000 a month or something. $3,200 a month is insane. With that, of course, KSL is as high profile as it is, and so much money is provided here to the players. So if you want to help support this and make this grow even further, then !KSL gives you a link to the Patreon. Patrons, they get some added bonuses. Specifically, they get replay packs. Replay packs are provided to the patrons. So all of these games, all these lovely games, can be yours. They can be at your fingertips, so you can kind of learn from them. You can not just learn from them, but if you want to, you can even cast. You can cast from them as well over on your own YouTube channel or Twitch channel, or just have a look and look at the POV of all these players and just be inspired and be in awe as to how fast they are and how they play. So if you want some of those juicy replays, KSL, they've got you covered. Got you covered. There you go. Oh. And yeah, with that, thank you so much everyone for watching. Thank you so much for the support. I'm gonna go get some food. And I, of course, am Light_VIP. If you want to tune into more myself, I do stream throughout the week. I don't stream on days where I'm casting. Like today I have 3 casts to do. I'm not streaming. I'm not having a ladder session in the middle of all this. That'd be crazy. But I do stream on my own personal channel every other day. You know, just some cheeky ladder sessions for some Zerg gameplay if you're interested. I should also be playing Diablo this week at some point, because Diablo 4 comes out, I think, in like 2 or 3 weeks. And I set a goal for myself, because I've never played Diablo 2 before. And I started playing Diablo 2 like a couple of months ago on stream, and I got up to Act 5 and I didn't finish it. I haven't had the time to play it, so I need to before Diablo 4 comes out. I need to finish it. So if you're interested, you can follow me there. Otherwise, if you're only interested in StarCraft 2, in casting, follow us here on the CranKy Ducklings. We're all over the place. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Discord. We also have our own Patreon as well, so all things CranKy Ducklings if you want to follow us and if you want to join us. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support. Stick around. We're going to be giving another lovely streamer a raid. Not too sure who yet, but we'll give someone a raid. And yeah, hope you all have a lovely weekend. And I'll see you once again in 2 hours for some more StarCraft. Until then, thanks for watching. Bye.